Hello there, welcome to the Saroy channel wherever you are in the world, and so much love to each and every one of you. How are you doing? I hope you're doing remarkably well. Well, Boris is now in the woodgrove. He's looking for his 2 rabbits, and something appears to be laughing at him. But what it is, well, he doesn't know yet, but he's about to find out, and so are you. So let's continue with part 4 of our story. But before we do, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell and the thumbs up. And let's continue with part 4 of our story tonight. Boris was sweating profusely. He felt absolutely awful. His head was thumping. He was violently hungry. So he discreetly pulled out of his pocket a packet of oatmeal and raisin cookies that he had successfully managed to hide from his mother. If he had a little bit of sugar in him, he'd feel so much better. He could do with the added energy right now. He sat down on the earthen floor, still heaving from exhaustion. It was good to get the weight off his feet, and for his whole body to be cushioned by the soft leaves that were scattered liberally across the forest floor. His chubby fingers eagerly opened up the packet of cookies with an enthusiastic haste, as if there was an urgency to cram a cookie into his mouth. These were his absolute favourite, and at least without his mother around, he could have the sugar fix he'd been longing for all morning. He put down the packet of cookies on the forest floor beside him and took one out. He would eat it ever so slowly, so he could enjoy the flavours, and it would last longer that way. He took a bite, and his mouth was filled with the flavour of oatmeal, raisin and caramel. It was so good. He was about to reach for another cookie when he'd finished the first one, but when he looked for the packet, it had all but gone. What was going on? Boris looked around and could not find his oatmeal and raisin cookie package anywhere. Where had it got to, when it had been there moments before? "Who stole my cookies?" came Boris's indignant voice. But no one answered him, and the woodgrove appeared to have become quiet. But Boris could not shake the feeling that someone was watching him. He wasn't afraid, but frustrated that his cookies had been taken, and he was starting to lose interest in finding the 2 missing rabbits, for the physical exertion of looking for them had sucked his energy reserves completely dry. He'd go back home now and abandon this trip. He was absolutely exhausted. As he walked across the fallen leaves of the earthen floor, he was certain he was being surreptitiously followed. He turned around, but nothing was there. Then it suddenly dawned on him that maybe James and Simon from next door were in the woodgrove playing tricks on him. That must be it. They were the ones that had stolen his cookies. Come to think of it, Simon did have a snort when he laughed, similar to the sound he had only just heard. Boris was now not amused. All his life he'd been the victim of fun-making because of his weight, but Simon and James playing this trick on him when he was going through a tough time already was just too much for him, and he could feel the anger festering inside him. "Simon! James! You think this is funny, do you? I know you're playing tricks on me. It's not funny." And with that he kicked up the leaves angrily as he stomped back along the woodland path. All of a sudden the cookie packet he was missing appeared to have become airborne and landed at his feet. He picked it up, but there were no cookies left inside it. He turned around, expecting to see Simon and James chuckling to themselves as they were cramming cookies into their mouth and possibly hiding behind a nearby tree. But that was not what he saw. Standing before him was a humongous male Bigfoot, towering at possibly 8 to 9 foot tall, and covered in long flowing dark hair, and looking at him with dark, mischievous eyes that twinkled with humour. The Bigfoot was chewing the last one of his cookies. Boris's jaw dropped wide open. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. He had never been so affrighted in all his life, and all he could do was try to run, on legs that were wobbling beneath him. He could hear the snorting sound behind him. The Bigfoot must be laughing at him, he thought. When Boris turned around briefly, he was shocked to see the Bigfoot was imitating his wheezing and puffing, as if he was making fun of him, much like the boys at school did. This was all too much for Boris, and he reached the house, bolting through the front door, wheezing and gasping for breath, and nearly falling over. His mother stood in the doorway, not looking remotely amused. "What is that in your hand, Boris?" she asked, snatching the cookie packet from her son's hands, that he didn't even realize he was still holding. "I thought I told you, no more snacking. Why are you eating these? Where did you get them from? I thought I threw this all away." "Mum, I've just seen a Bigfoot in the woods. The Bigfoot ate my cookies. I only had one of them," he told her earnestly. Nina van Rensburg looked at her son in disgust. "Ah, there you go again, Boris. Excuses, 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 and so many fanciful ones. You're not going to take the responsibility, are you, for eating the cookies? And I know where you got these from. You stole them from the bin liners I took to the children's home. How could you? I thought I told you no more snacking. Don't you dare play the innocent with me. And as for blaming so-called Bigfoot for eating the cookies, I've heard everything now. You should be ashamed of yourself. You make up things as you go along, but it doesn't wash with me anymore. I'm tired of your lying to me and manipulating me in the way you do. Very tired of it." "But, Mum, I'm not lying. There was a Bigfoot in the woods. He took the cookies. He was following me. He was making fun of me. I only ate one of the cookies, I promise you." "Oh, please, change the record, will you, Boris? Look at the state of you. You're sweating like a pig. You're so desperately unfit. It's shocking for a boy your age to be so out of shape. Dr. Lambrose was right about everything. I've been an enabler, and it stops right now. If I find you with any more oat and raisin cookies, there'll be hell to pay. And I will confiscate your pocket money for the entire year. And I'm not joking either. Is that understood?" "Yes, Mum." "Good. I'm glad I've made myself clear. Did you find the rabbits you were looking for by any chance? By the looks of you, I sincerely doubt it." "I couldn't find them anywhere, Mum. Will you get me another too, please?" "Absolutely not, Boris. I know I'm coming down on you hard, but things have got to change around here. I've been a pushover for far too long. You are responsible for looking after your rabbits. If 2 of them go missing, it's on you. One day you're going to be a grown-up man, and you won't have me to bail you out every time you have a shortfall of some kind. You're going to need to take responsibility for yourself. I've allowed you to get away with far too much for far too long, which is why you are the size you are currently. Simon and James Miller from next door do hundreds of chores around their house, I'm told. They chop firewood for their father. They do the washing for their mother. They take it in turns to do the chores around the house. They go out with their father on sports excursions and get involved in school sports. And look how healthy they both are. I blame myself for what you have become. You're lazy, entitled, and extremely selfish, and furthermore you're a liar. Your father is not much different, but he doesn't lie. Well, I suppose he does when it comes to food. But things are going to change around here, because I want you and your dad around for a long time, believe it or not." "You want us around, do you? Well, if you do, we're going to both be miserable." "I don't think you'll be miserable for very much longer," said Nina van Rensburg with a twinkle in her eyes. "Imagine if all the bullying at school stops if you lose the weight. And what about when you're older and you start dating? Do you think a pretty girl will give you a second glance if you're a great big fatty? I don't think so." "I don't want to date girls," said Boris furiously. "And just so you know, I wasn't making it up about the Bigfoot. I saw it in the woodgrove. It was laughing at me. It stole my cookies." "I've had enough nonsense from you. Go and wash yourself. You stink. And just so you know, tonight you're going to have chicken breast, broccoli and salad for dinner." "I hate you, Mum. You're horrible. You're the worst mum in the whole world. Even Janice Miller is better than you. And that's saying something," said Boris, storming to his bedroom in disgust, wondering what on earth had happened to the mother who he could so easily twist around his little finger. He did not like this new version of his mother, and he was so sick of eating all this healthy food. All he could think about was tasting a juicy burger with chips, followed by bowlfuls of the creamiest tapioca pudding. But those thoughts only made his hunger 1,000 times worse. Janice Miller. Back at the Miller household, Janice Miller was absolutely convinced that her 2 children had nothing to do with the disappearance of Boris's 2 rabbits. She knew she had brought up her 2 children to be the pillars of society. Nina van Rensburg was impressed with the way she had raised her 2 boys, and was taking pointers from her to be a better mother to Boris. Yet despite the fact that Janice Miller was convinced that her 2 boys could have nothing to do with the abduction of the 2 rabbits that belonged to Boris, there was something that was giving her pause for thought, and was niggling at her, like an inner voice telling her to pay attention. When Janice was cleaning the living room that morning, to her horror she found a muddy footprint on the window ledge that looked as if it belonged to one of her boys. The window was wide open, and she realized that her sons would be able to wiggle through it if they wanted to, and the only thing she could think about was the possibility her children had used the window to sneak out of the house during the night. And for what? The telltale marks had not been there the day before. She had remembered how James's face had paled when she told them that she had reassured Nina van Rensburg that her kids would never ever take Boris's 2 rabbits. But now, with the telltale muddy footprint weighing on her mind, she was beginning to doubt her earnest protestations of their innocence. Could it be that her 2 perfect boys, that she emphatically believed would never do anything treacherously deceitful, had been lying to her all along? Supposing they had stolen 2 of Boris's rabbits. But they wouldn't do that, Janice assured herself firmly. Not my sons. Yet when she told herself this, she could feel the nausea welling up in the back of her throat, as a little voice whispered, "Why not your sons? What makes you think they're so perfect? Where do you think that muddy footprint on the window ledge comes from? Don't be so delusional, Janice. Wake up, will you?" Janice threw down her duster, and with hands trembling and a heart suspended in her throat, she went off to search for Boris's rabbits. If her kids were hiding them on the property, she would find them. Janice thought about the old guinea pig enclosure behind the yard shed, and thought it would be the perfect place to hide the stowaway bunny rabbits. "They're not there," she told herself firmly. "My 2 sons would never take Boris's rabbits." But when Janice Miller ventured behind the yard shed and stared at the guinea pig enclosure, what did she find but 2 of Boris's rabbits chomping away happily into some romaine lettuce? Janice stared at the rabbits in disbelief. She growled under her breath, "I will kill them when they get home. I will kill them. See if I don't. My sons stole Boris's rabbits and lied to me straight to my face. When they get home from school today, they are going to wish that they were never born." When Simon and James returned home from school that afternoon, after having been dropped up the road by the yellow school bus, they had no idea what awaited them in the kitchen, and they were in for a rude awakening that they had not seen coming. The boys knew at once that they were in trouble, by the expression on Janice's face that told them that they were very much in the dog box, as both boys knew how their mother behaved when she wasn't happy, and her whole face was like a stormy day. Simon and James surreptitiously exchanged warning glances between each other. Their mother had not laid out any sandwiches for them, as she usually did. The breakfast nook on the kitchen was barren. There was nothing warmly welcoming about the kitchen this afternoon. "We're in trouble," Simon whispered to his brother. "Mummy's pissed about something, really pissed. I can see it in her face." "I think you boys have something to tell me, don't you? And I'd like to hear it," she said with an expression of grave disappointment on her face. "What do you mean, Mum?" asked James innocently. Janice Miller shook her short head of tightly cropped black curls furiously. "Oh, no, you don't," she said indignantly. "Don't you dare play the innocent with me. I know." "What do you know, Mum?" "I know that you took Boris's 2 rabbits. I found them both happily tucking into some romaine lettuce in the old guinea pig enclosure that used to belong to my father. Why the hell would you steal 2 of Boris's rabbits? Do you realize what you both have done?" "You found them, then?" asked Simon, his face paling. "Yes, I found them, Simon. I hope you're proud of yourselves for becoming such accomplished little thieves and creeping out the lounge window in the middle of the night. Yes, I found those muddy footprints on the window ledge, which betrayed your insidious crimes to me." "Oh, no," said Simon. "I thought we'd wiped the evidence away." "I can't believe it, Simon. You have the audacity to say something like this. You sound like a hardened criminal. You're stealing Boris's rabbits. What will you do tomorrow if this is what you've done today? What do you have to say for yourselves? You swore blind you had nothing to do with the rabbit's disappearance, but you both lied to me." "We didn't swear anything, Mum. You were the one that assumed we hadn't taken the rabbits. We didn't correct you on that, that's all." "Of course I assumed you hadn't taken Boris's rabbits. You know why? Because I had faith in your integrity. I didn't raise you to both become thieves. What do you have to say for yourselves? I take it that, Simon, you're the ringleader in all of this. God knows you've been incessantly nagging me to buy you more rabbits for a long time, so it's obvious you're behind it." "That's why we did it, Mum," said Simon defensively. "You've never been generous to us, have you? You're tight with our pocket money. And you don't pay us for any chores we do around the house. How do you think it feels to see Boris next door with over 20 rabbits, and we only have 3? Boris gets everything he wants, and Mrs. van Rensburg refuses him nothing. But when we want something, you always say no." "So that's what this is all about, then," said Janice Miller furiously. "You were jealous that Boris had more rabbits than you, so you stole 2 from him. Do you realise how pathetic you sound?" "It's not pathetic, Mum. We just wanted to have more than 3 rabbits, that's all." "I didn't want any more rabbits, Mum," said James. "Simon was the one that wanted 2 more rabbits. He said he'd pay me a month's worth of his pocket money if I helped him steal 2 of Boris's rabbits during the night. So I did, because I wanted to buy that vintage car I like so much." "I don't care about whose fault this is. Both of you did this, so you're both responsible. But I care more about the fact that you both lied to me, and also that you stole 2 rabbits from our next-door neighbour. It is absolutely shocking. Shocking, to say the very least. I never thought I'd ever be ashamed of both of my boys, but I'm ashamed of both of you. You're nothing but common thieves, and you're going to be punished severely for what you've done. I wonder what Mrs. van Rensburg would have to say if she knew about this." "You didn't tell her, Mum, did you?" asked Simon nervously. "What do you take me for, Simon? Of course I didn't tell her. And you know why? Because I'm always proudly telling my good friend what wonderful children I have, and that you boys are of such noble character. More fool me for believing the best in my own children. I told Nina van Rensburg the 2 of you would never, and I repeat, never, steal her son's rabbits, because you're raised so very well. So I'm hardly going to pick up the phone and call my friend and say, 'Oh, hello, Nina, how are you? I was wrong about my sons. They're a couple of common thieves, and yes, they did steal your son's rabbits. Oh, by the way, all the stuff about my kids having integrity is a bold-faced lie. Do you think I'm going to tell her that? I don't think so." "So then we can keep the rabbits, can we, Mum?" asked Simon hopefully. "I can't believe you got the brazen audacity to ask me such a thing, Simon," said Janice Miller, looking appalled. "No, you cannot keep Boris's rabbits under any circumstances. Do you hear me? What don't you get about this? You stole 2 of Boris's rabbits, so I'm going to have to return them to him. You're going to give me the combination number of the lock for the hatch, and I'm going to place the rabbits back in the hutch where they belong. I'm going to have to sneak out of the house in the middle of the night to accomplish this endeavour, as the 2 of you have brought me down to your level. But I have to make a right out of this dreadful wrong. As for the 2 of you, well, there's going to be no pocket money for the next month. Do you understand? You're lucky I'm coming down on you so lightly. I was thinking of confiscating your pocket money for an entire year. Stealing of any kind is not acceptable. I don't care if Boris owns 20 Rolls-Royces and walks around with a wallet stuffed with hundreds of dollars. You don't even take anything from someone, even if they've got an excess of whatever it may be." "Mum, you mustn't go into the woods at night. There's a Bigfoot in the woods there. We saw it. We were very scared of it. Oh, nice try, Simon. I don't buy that for a second. A Bigfoot in the woods? Your elaborate lies are so far-fetched and over the top. And you'll do anything and say anything, won't you? To keep those rabbits. But it's not going to happen. I'm sorry, those rabbits are going back to Boris, whether you like it or not. I'm so desperately disappointed in the both of you. You're lucky I haven't told your father about this. And you know why? Why? Asked Simon, going white. Because I don't want your father losing faith in you like I have done. He'd be devastated to know what you've done, and very ashamed, and I don't want to put him through that. Ma'am, you're making it sound as if we've robbed some old ladies of their life savings. We stole 2 of Boris's bunny rabbits, only because he has too many of them. I don't care how many rabbits Boris has got. It doesn't make what you did right. If I had 10 cars parked in the garage and Mrs. van Rensburg next door thought I had too many, do you think she has a right to take one of them? I don't think so. This is different, Mum, said Simon. Rabbits aren't cars. What are you not getting about any of this, Simon? Stealing is wrong, and those rabbits are going straight back to the van Rensburgs. And my decision is final. I'm going to put them back myself where they belong. The last thing I want to do is to admit to Mrs. van Rensburg that my 2 sons are nothing more than common thieves. I also don't want your friendship with Boris to blow apart and become impaired. If he thinks you have stolen his 2 rabbits, it'll be very distressing for him to think that 2 of his best friends could do such a wicked thing. In normal circumstances, I would want you to apologize to him for what you've done, but instead you're going to buy him some nice things with your pocket money that you won't be getting this month. You can think of something he'd like and buy it for him, as way of compensation for what you've done. But Boris is going to think it's odd if we buy him a present, James insisted. You can tell him you bought him a gift to encourage him to be successful in his endeavours. I think that would be a very nice thing to do. But, Mum, giving Boris a gift will mean absolutely nothing to him. Mrs. van Rensburg gives him everything he ever wants. He just has to say the word tapioca pudding, and his mum is at his side, giving him platefuls of the stuff, and I'm not exaggerating. Not any more, said Janice Miller, shaking her head firmly. I think you will find Mrs. van Rensburg has changed. She took her husband to see Dr. Lambrose the other day. He told her that obesity kills, and her husband and son might have a reduced lifespan, and let's just say that was a wake-up call for her. She's thrown all the treats out of the house, and she's told me that both Boris and Louis are in cantankerous moods at the moment because she won't give in to their every whim. I'm extremely proud of her accomplishments. She told me that Boris stole a packet of oatmeal and raisin cookies the other day, and when she caught him, he claimed a Bigfoot had eaten the packet. So I'm afraid your Bigfoot excuses just don't wash with me. Nor do they wash with Nina, who wasn't fooled for a second. If you want to make elaborate excuses, you boys should be a little bit more realistic with them. Both James and Simon knew about Boris's Bigfoot encounter, as he had told them about it, but they had been unable to share their own with him, as that would mean admitting to him that they had stolen his 2 rabbits. They had told Boris they believed his account, but they couldn't believe he had been foolish enough to tell his mother that a Bigfoot had eaten his cookies. That was going too far, even though it was true, of course. Mrs. van Rensburg crept out of her house at the dead of night, taking care not to wake up her husband. She had crumbled a couple of antihistamines into his cocoa that were renowned for making one very drowsy, and they had worked a treat on her husband, for he was out like a light. She felt exceedingly guilty about not telling him about what the boys had done in stealing 2 of Boris's rabbits, but she didn't have the heart to tell him, because he'd be so disappointed in them. Once Janice Miller was out of the house, she could see that it was a reasonably light night, with a full moon indiscriminately casting its bright illumination over the yard, which meant the night appeared to be unambiguously wearing a nonchalant, easy-going ambience. Janice was not the kind of woman intimidated by very much. She was made of tough stuff. She was practical, efficient, and headstrong, and her undivided focus tonight was getting this job done and returning Boris's rabbits to their rightful enclosure, where they obviously belonged. She was exceedingly annoyed with her 2 boys for forcing her to do this clandestine night-time operation, which made her feel like an insidious burglar. But there really was no other way to sort this problem out. She was not going to encourage her children to keep stolen property that did not belong to them. But this was one of the most difficult returns she had ever had to make. Her 2 boys were out of order, and needed to learn the hard way that no one got rewarded for doing something that was underhanded and wrong. She knew Simon got ridiculously mushy over bunny rabbits, and she couldn't for the life of her understand why her son was not happy with 3 bunny rabbits. Wasn't that enough? The problem was Nina van Rensburg from next door had overspoilt Boris, giving him so many more rabbits than her own children possessed, and it had made them feel hard done by, and in a way she could understand that. But stealing 2 of Boris's rabbits was an unacceptable thing for her boys to do. Simon had given his mother the combination lock for the van Rensburg rabbit enclosure, so with the 2 rabbits tucked in the cat carrier, Janice cautiously made her way down the woodland trails towards the van Rensburg backyard. She had thought a casual walk through the woods to the van Rensburg property would be pretty straightforward, but nothing could be further from the truth. The night wore an unsettling, inauspicious ambience, so as Janice scurried awkwardly down the trails, she was overcome with a profound sense of foreboding, a sense that she was not alone, that someone was watching her. She turned around very quickly to survey the woods, to ensure that nothing was there. But the woods gave nothing away. The tall, lofty silhouettes of the trees were enshrouded in a veil of such extreme darkness that everything was indistinguishable. Janice's torch lit up the path ahead of her, while she held on to the cat carrier for dear life. She was hit with the overwhelming sense that something was definitely there, that something was watching her. But every time her eyes cast their gaze across the grove, she saw absolutely nothing. "What's wrong with me?" she thought to herself. "Get a grip! Nothing is there!" And that was when she saw him. And there are no words. Janice thought she had to be dreaming, so she quickly closed her eyes and opened them again, and there he was, watching her. Oh my God, he was enormous, easily 8 to 9 foot tall, and covered in dark hair, darker than the night itself. Janice was seeing a Bigfoot. For a moment Janice locked eyes with the male Bigfoot, and was astounded by how human he appeared to be. He nodded at her, almost as if he was saying hello, and then he just walked casually away, almost as if crossing paths with Janice was a completely normal thing to do. Janice was so completely terrified, she ran through the woods as fast as she could, towards the van Rensburg house. When she reached the house, she ran to their front door and began beating it loudly. It was 2:30 in the morning. All of a sudden the lights in the van Rensburg household went on. Moments later, Nina van Rensburg, with her husband Louis at her side, opened the front door. She looked bemused to see Janice Miller standing there, with wide, frightened eyes, carrying a cat carrier in her hands. "What on earth are you doing here, Janice, at this time of night?" Nina asked, guiding her friend into the house. "Something's out there," said Janice. "Something was following me here. I'm not going out there again. I'm just not." Louis van Rensburg frowned. "What the hell are you doing here at this time of night?" he asked. "Do you realize what time it is?" Janice had to think quickly on her feet. "Well, I couldn't sleep tonight, could I? Would you believe it? I saw your 2 rabbits, 2 of Boris's rabbits, hopping around our lawn in the middle of the night. I knew at once they were Boris's because they were so tame. So I put them in the cat box and brought them to you at once. I couldn't believe what a stroke of good luck it was that I was able to spot them like that. And as I was up and about, I thought I'd take a casual walk to the woods and bring them back to you. I had to get them back to you at once. I know you've been so worried about their whereabouts." "It's very kind of you to think about Boris. But couldn't you have waited for the morning, Janice?" asked Nina, looking surprised. "I'm sure Boris will be thrilled to have his rabbits back. But your coming over here at the dead of night and walking down that trail is ludicrous. It's very dark out there, very intimidating and frightening. And you walked all the way. Are you insane? At the very least, if you came over to our house, shouldn't you have driven here? I just knew how upset poor Boris was about his missing 2 rabbits. I wanted him to get them back as soon as possible. So I decided to come at once. But I don't want to go out there again. It felt like something was following me. I know you think I'm being dramatic. I'm not normally frightened of the dark, but something was there. I know it was. Look, Janice, me and Nina, we fully appreciate you being so considerate in bringing Boris's rabbits back. But Nina is right. You woke us up at this crazy hour of the night. You should really have left it until the morning. But I tell you what I'll do, I'll drive you back home. There's no way I want you wandering around in the darkness like this. It's crazy. No wonder you're so affrighted. Oh, I'm so embarrassed, said Janice. You're absolutely right. What was I thinking, coming out to your property at this insane hour, when I could have left it until the morning? Nina van Rensburg kept her lips tightly pursed together. She wasn't fooled for a single second. She realized at once that Janice's kids had probably stolen Boris's rabbits, and Mrs. Miller, who believed her 2 boys were cherubs, had discovered their grisly crime, and to cover for them, had surreptitiously tried to return the rabbits in the middle of the night. But something had gone wrong, and frightened her so very much that she'd banged on their front door, and made some farcical excuse about needing to return Boris's rabbits at such an insane hour of the night. Nina smiled to herself, feeling a sense of gratification that Janice's 2 boys were not so perfect after all. But she wouldn't let Janice know that she knew exactly what was going on. To cut a long story short, the 2 Miller children gave Boris van Rensburg a very nice present that they brought with their pocket money that had been confiscated from them. And Boris said to them, "Well, I better give you something in return, shouldn't I? How about I give you 2 of my bunny rabbits, the 2 that went missing? I'm sure you'd like them." "You'd give us your bunny rabbits?" asked Simon, looking surprised. "I thought you were so proud of having 20. "Well, I figured that since your rabbits went missing, and your mother found them wandering around your lawn at the dead of night, that they must want to be with you rather than with me. So they're yours. Besides, I have far too many rabbits. If you want to thank anyone, thank my mother. It was her idea for me to give you the rabbits. She pointed out that they were found wandering around your property." Simon and James went to seek Mrs. van Rensburg to thank her for the rabbits. "You'll never know what it means to us to have these 2 bunny rabbits, Mrs. van Rensburg," Simon said excitedly, very glad that they would legitimately be able to keep the 2 rabbits. "Word of advice, Simon," said Mrs. van Rensburg. "If you really want something, it's always better to ask. I do believe I know how very much you want those rabbits. Boris has too many. It was no skin off his nose to give you 2 of them." In that moment, Simon felt rather like the emperor wearing no clothes, almost as if everyone had uncovered their dirty secret, but he didn't care any more. He was so delighted to have the bunny rabbits that he loved so much, and had cost him and his brother so much in terms of courage and conviction, for they had faced what seemed like real adversity to get their hands on those rabbits. Simon and James never forgot the story of how they encountered the Bigfoot in the woods that had terrified the both of them half to death. Boris had also had a bizarre encounter and had been freaked out by it. Mrs. Miller had thought her children's claims that they had encountered a Bigfoot in the middle of the night on their intrepid adventure had been highly exaggerated, until she had encountered the Bigfoot herself, when she was delivering the rabbits safely back to their enclosure. She confided in her 2 boys that after her encounter with the Bigfoot, in her panic, she had run straight to the van Rensburg front door, and had had to make a bizarre story up about finding the rabbits wandering around their lawn. And then she told her 2 boys, "I'm afraid I don't know if Nina believed my story or not. She did give me a very funny look. But what could I do about that? I had to go to their house because I was terrified of the Bigfoot I'd seen, and I was too afraid to return home by way of the woodgrove. So thankfully Mr. van Rensburg agreed to give me a lift home. But I think the van Rensburgs might know that you stole their rabbits, But you know what? I'm beyond caring about that now. The good news is that Mr. Lewis van Rensburg and his son Boris, in the weeks and months that followed, lost a considerable amount of weight. They will never go back to the mindless eating of their past, and now they're so much more mobile. So there you are. That's my story. Wow, what an incredible story. Until next time, goodbye and good night.